This episode is brought to you by Rescue Intelitech, innovating solutions to keep firefighters safe. Their Solo Rescue Decon Washer helps reduce cancer risks by cleaning contaminated gear quickly and effectively. Learn more at rescueintelitech.com because clean gear saves lives.
At the Fire Store, you'll find everything but the truck, helmets, boots, turnout gear, and more that you can count on. Shop now at thefirestore.com.
Hi, Chris McClune here with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Welcome to this episode of our podcast. This is going to be a commentary one. I'm not actually sure how long it's going to take. I actually have some news that I want to share that I've just learned about. Regarding 2027 engines and things like that. Let me just give you a background real quick. Where I am is the FEMA Fire Apparatus Design Symposium. In a hotel room, got the back blurred, so that's why that's like that. It was the first annual event, and thus far, one of the things that really stuck out to me, was that the folks here are very, very mission oriented. They're here to learn how to learn or pick up some tips that will help them specify their next rigs. Although the current atmosphere, the current purchasing atmosphere did come up in one question on the first day. The question was answered as a group. Those gathered moved on from it. And really, it was a little refreshing to be honest, because there has been so much made of late of some are calling for government involvement. We've tried on our end to put out content that will sort of explain things or at least help you navigate where we're at right now. Fact of the matter is, we still have to buy trucks. And we need to figure out whatever the atmosphere is right now, whatever elements there are to that, we need to figure out how to get through that. But one aspect of things that we've talked about, but hasn't maybe gotten as much attention as some of these other things, are the engine changes that are coming. We know that I know the Cummins side of the equation only because the people with whom I've spoken are generally with Cummins on that. There were a couple of things here. A couple of things just to start off. We got the presentation off earlier today. Will regen go away? No. Will DEF and SCR go away? No. So if you are wondering about those two items as we move toward 2027, the answer to that is no. Cummins has now decided they were toying with the idea of maybe an earlier release domestically of these engines. But they are going to release the new platform all at once in 2027. The ones that we're most concerned about will be the new X10 and the new X15. There was a lot that we discussed or that was discussed during this particular presentation, and unfortunately, some of it. It's not that I can't share it. It's just that it would be more geared around one OEM than all of them. So I have an idea of how one OEM is approaching the cab impacts, the chassis impacts, but I don't know, because not everybody was up there, what the others are doing. So there's something. I'm going to be writing an Outlook article for December again, and I'm already starting to get some of the answers back from interview questions that I've sent out. And one of the things is, what advice do you have? Well, this advice is no mystery. It's been said before. Plan now. I've brought up that my fire company is looking into its new rescue truck. This truck, we took delivery of this truck in November of 2016, so it is not even 10 years old yet, but we are already starting to plan out its replacement. Why are we doing that? Because of the current atmosphere, because we know that it will take us a certain period of time to get all of our ducks in a row to then bring to the different manufacturers to see how they can help. And so, we are already planning now. I'm just using us as an example because I know that's going on. I know that there are, myriad other companies or departments that are already planning this out. There are some that are that have already placed the orders because that's just what they do every so many years. They're just having to wait longer for those to come through. Now, where was I going with that? The planning. And part of planning is asking questions. So while I cannot tell you exactly how one OEM is looking to approach all of this, because as both speakers said, the pencils are not down. Cummins is not done really tweaking things. There could be some other changes to those engines designs coming down the road. Some of the things that they're working on. The same goes for the manufacturers, the OEMs. Their pencils are not down. Certainly not the one that spoke. So to say some things now would be certainly premature and possibly by 2027 not be entirely accurate. But what I can tell you is that there are things to talk about. Every manufacturer does things possibly a little different with locations of items. So you are going to want to talk to your manufacturer about the locations of the following components around the engine: the alternators, the AC compressors, the brake air compressor, air cleaners, oil filters, fuel filters, turbocharger, and any exhaust insulation. Ask them now, or try to get an answer now as to what those locations will be. We know, according to today, there will be a 48-volt alternator on the front of right now on Cummins engines that will have to do with some of the emissions controls. I say control, some of the emissions systems that are on these engines. Lost my train of thought there. Sorry. So there will be a belt-driven alternator there. We know that. We know that alternator will not be able to be used for anything else on the vehicle. So it is specifically there for those for the emissions systems. But as far as the chassis alternator, for the 12-volt system, ask them, where is that going to be located? That list again: alternators, AC compressors, brake air compressor, air cleaners, oil filters, fuel filters, turbocharger, and exhaust insulation. Ask how the exhaust insulation, obviously it's going to be insulation on the exhaust, but ask how they're going to handle that, because that could impact some other things as well. So let's see. We learned that there will be no need for more DEF. Where is that tank going to be? That could differ by manufacturer, but that tank, whatever tank your manufacturer has been using size-wise, that will not change. You won't need more. You're going to want to ask your manufacturers about the cab impacts and about the body impacts. It sounds like no matter what, we kind of learned a little bit about how one OEM is going to be taking a look at and adjusting things, but it sounds like we know that there will be possibly some impact to the driver and the officer for some of this, and the engine tunnel could get a little longer within the cab. But that was really but every manufacturer is going to tackle that differently, and depending on the locations of some of those other items, that could impact it as well. Sculpting, I believe, was the word that was used. Sculpting around certain things. The body. Now, In this particular presentation, we were discussing pumpers. I said I'm due for a rescue truck, so I don't know. We didn't get into rescue trucks. The impact sounds like no matter who you go with, and I've actually spoken with other manufacturers about this. It sounds like the R1 compartment on a pumper is where you would see some impact. What that impact will be, I don't know. We know what this person told us. There will be an impact in that compartment somewhere to accommodate the two cans, the DEF and the STR can of these new systems. We talked a little bit about aerial trucks, and the aerial trucks are going to apparently. You're going to need to talk to your manufacturer about that. There are challenges there that I can't really get into what they are, but if you're in the market and you want to talk to them about you're going to be planning to buy a ladder and it's going to have one of these EPA 27 engines in it, then talk to the manufacturer. You're going to want to ask your manufacturer about the wheelbase. What is the shortest wheelbase you can do? And weight issues, not issues, but from what we were told today, looks like hold on here, let me get to my notes here. It sounds there's a weight difference between the L9 and the X10 of approximately we were told 400 pounds. X12 going to an X10 heavy duty would be 300 pounds lighter. So the X10 heavy duty will be lighter than the X12, and the X15 is weight neutral. So those were a number of things there that was discussed today. Again, this was an OEM and it was a Cummins representative. We did not get into any of the other potential engines that were there. So we know what Cummins is doing, and really, across the industry, I think that except for one OEM, the choice is to go with a Cummins engine. So those were the things that we needed to know. It was good. It was a good presentation. Now let me talk a little bit about this event in general. It's the first annual. We've already talked a bit about some specification 101 type things. Learned a lot about multiplexing yesterday, and that's something that sometimes we there's mixed reactions when you talk about multiplexing, basically. But it was modern electrical systems. When we're talking about them, we're basically talking about multiplexing. Just one thing that never occurred to me before, probably just because I guess judging from my own experience, I haven't gone through it. If you OEMs, first of all, OEMs have different multiplex systems, which I think we know. There are sometimes some different languages that we need to figure out how to get things to talk to each other. But on a commercial chassis, if you go with a commercial chassis for your next rig, you could end up having two different multiplex systems on there. There could be one that the OEM uses in the body, and then whatever the chassis manufacturer, International, Freightliner, Navistar, whoever, would use. Just something to keep in mind there. Not major. I mean, it's not like an issue. It's just just keep in mind that may exist. We talked about lighting yesterday, and gosh, I mean, how important is some of the multiplexing going to be when we talk about some of the lighting controls? This is like I said, it's the first annual event. It is basically the industry suppliers are talking to us about the area in which their companies specialize. So, for example, lighting. There were two different lighting manufacturers there who talked in a broad broad way about the different lighting technologies that are out there, the different things that different ways to look at, do you want to have a lighting controller on your truck? You don't have to have the lighting controller on your truck, but if you want to do certain things like synchronization and things like that, you're going to need to do that. If you can get your fleet now to synchronize lighting patterns when you're on the scene. I know that's not new. Other people have heard that, but just one of those things. That the type of things that they were talking about. And it was kind of nice yesterday that we had the multiplexing talk earlier in the day, that kind of led up to these other things. But I think, for me personally, I was really looking forward to the engine talk today. And, like I said, the biggest thing is planning at the moment. Whether you're planning around the current lead times, whether you're planning around the engines, you need to ask questions. At the very least, whatever truck you're getting ready to specify, you need to ask whoever you go with, or even as you're going through the process, whatever manufacturers you are talking to, ask them what their solution to the changes or how they are addressing the changes. Say the solution, you're indicating there's a problem. It's not a problem. It's just a new challenge in terms of what we're doing. Ask a lot about that. Ask about front intakes. How will you still be able to do the front intake the way you have traditionally done it when we are looking at the new emissions control elements that have been introduced to the design of the truck? Talk about aerials. Talk about, because you need to know how are these new engines and their designs going to impact the design of my next truck. I think it's safe to say that for right now, it is safe to say things are going to change. We did not get into pricing or anything like that, so I don't have information on that. This was really about these new engines and how are they going to impact our trucks as we specify them. So, there's still a lot to come, I think, with this. They repeated a number of times, pencils down, or the pencils are not down. So we know that there could still be things coming. Again, this was one OEM that was there to talk to us. I know what they're doing, but really, no matter who it is, it very well could be that in terms of where they're placing things around the engines, like the AC compressors and the brake air compressors and all that stuff, maybe they all put them in the same place. I don't know, but you need to ask. You need to ask about where they're going, and you're going to need to ask about how that's going to impact the chassis and how it's going to impact the cab. There's a little, the question came up about, the officer side. There will be an impact. I can't tell you how every manufacturer is going to do that. You're going to need to go to them, ask them the questions, get the measurements, and find out from them how they intend to address this stuff. I'll tell you what, though, like the really one refreshing thing, though, as I said before, and I think it bears repeating, is that the people in that room were looking to find out more information from all these people so that they can design their next trucks, to get some tips, to get some tricks, not tips and tricks, but to get some tips about how to do this, about what is available to them, whether it be, even foam systems we talked about, lighting, compartmentation. We talked about some cab features today. What are you planning to do with the cabs? When you're planning your cab and the inside, a big part of it that it came up that not a lot of people may realize this if you haven't bought a truck recently, since NFPA 1900 went into effect in January 2024. But primary and secondary seating, plan ahead. Make sure you are able to tell your manufacturer these are going to be the primary seats in the crew cab, because the manufacturer then will ensure that some spacing requirements, but you need to identify what they're going to be. And that came up. It's simply a new thing that not everybody may realize. So if you're going into your next apparatus purchasing committee thinking we are going to, we're going to have a crew cab that holds 8 people. We're just gonna put 4 rear facing seats right next to each other and 4 forward facing seats right next to each other. So so we're knocking knees, the whole time we're driving to the call. You may not be able to do that anymore, depending on if you decide those are all primary. It may end up not working. So you really, really need to be up on NFPA 1900. That came up a couple of times. We were talking about specs yesterday, and we were talking about how important it is to read the specs. When you get them, read them. Make sure that there is nothing left to chance. If it is not there that you want a switch in a particular spot, that switch will be placed wherever the OEM decides to place it. So you may expect in your mind that it's going to be here because you figured it's going to be there. Maybe it's there on the truck you got now. But if you haven't told them, they won't know. And if you don't read the spec before you say, okay, go, then that's going to be a problem later. We talked about the most important meeting to go to, and that the one presenter said that would be the pre-construction meeting. We've had that webinar by Ricky Riley on that. We have another one coming up this week. I'm in Orlando right now for this conference, and it is the 23rd of October. Wow, the year's gone by. It's 23rd of October. This podcast will come out on the 27th, and on the 29th we have the second installment of that webinar series. And let me just make sure I get the right title for you, just to make sure. This is going to be the second part. It's going to be the engineering conference. It's on October 29th, 1 p.m. Pre-construction conference we had a month ago, and that is on demand. So if you go to fireapparatus.com/webinars, you will be able to see that. So we've been talking about these things. This is part 2 of the series, engineering conference. We'll have the final inspection in December. We're going to have the final inspection version of that. So it's been a pretty cool week. I mean, this information on the engines was important. I'm very glad that they gave us all that information. Don't have any. There were renderings, but we were asked not to take any pictures, obviously. But see if your manufacturer has renderings of what the impact of these engines is going to be on your cabs and the chassis. It could be that everything's status quo. We used to put the vehicle alternator here. We're still going to put the vehicle alternator there. Make sure, but like anything else, and ask for help if you need it, but size that generator properly. We had one person ask a question about the alternator size and how a fire department was burning through alternators and batteries like nobody's business. The preconceived notion is that LED lighting is it draws less, it lasts forever, it draws less, you don't need a generator, etc. And nobody's getting generators. However, there is a load, and if you don't size everything else appropriately, that load will impact the truck. So make sure you're doing your homework on these things. Plan. I can't say it enough. That is what that's really, if there's one thing that I'm taking away from all this is the planning. Do the homework up front, do all the work up front, so that when you hand it to them, there aren't any changes coming down the pike. So, little commentary for you. went probably a little longer than I thought it would, but I was kind of excited about the engine news, so I wanted to get that out right away. I'm sure there's more coming, so we're just at the tail end of 2025 here. There's a whole other year here that things are going to happen. We will stay on top of it for you, but really just keep on moving forward. I think is plan ahead, but keep on moving forward. What we do in the fire service as firefighters at a fire, we adapt to the conditions that we're presented with. And right now we are presented with some challenging conditions. And some of the ways to adapt is to plan farther ahead, but also, increase that communication, over communicate, ask the questions. I rattled off a list of things you need to be asking your OEM about, because you want to find out where they're putting all those things, because all those things could have an impact on the engine. You don't always think about how much the OEM is adding to the engine. It's not coming, they have to add the air conditioning compressors. They have to do this, that, and the other. So just remember those kinds of things. Plan ahead, ask questions ahead. So I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. If there are topics you would like me to hit on that I haven't hit on yet, please let me know. Chris.McClune at clarionevents.com. All of our podcasts are archived at www.fireapparatus.com/podcast. As I said in a recent podcast with Ricky Riley, we've gotten things a bit more organized there, so it should be easier to find the particular podcast you want, whether it's talking trucks, moving water, apparatus workshop, etc. So we've made that easier to find. www.fireapparatus.com/podcast. So again, this has been Chris McClune with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Have a good one and stay safe.
This episode is brought to you by Rescue Intelitech, innovating solutions to keep firefighters safe. Their Solo Rescue Decon Washer helps reduce cancer risks by cleaning contaminated gear quickly and effectively. Learn more at rescueintelitech.com, because clean gear saves lives.
At the Fire Store, you'll find everything but the truck: helmets, boots, turnout gear, and more that you can count on. Shop now at thefirestore.com.